Welcome to this week's episode of Coffee with a Journalist, brought to you by OnePitch. Are you curious how OnePitch can help you find relevant journalists to pitch, including some of the guests on this podcast? Head to our website at onepitch.co to learn more. Our guest this week on Coffee with a Journalist is Megan Farokhmanesh, a senior writer at Wired. As a senior writer, Megan covers video games and the industry that makes them. During the episode, Megan talks about why she has so many sticky notes on her desk, the ways you should and shouldn't format subject lines, her preference for lead time on stories, and much more. Let's hear from Megan now.
Welcome, everyone. This is Coffee with a Journalist. I'm Beck Bamberger here with OnePitch. You're listening because hopefully you want some scoops on how to get to journalists, which is what we're going to do here today. Today with us, we have a senior writer from Wired Public Magazine. I love Wired. I've been looking at Wired for I don't even know how long, because if you're nerds and you like everything tech related, Wired's going to be the publication for you. We'll get into that in just a second. But first, I want to welcome our guest today. Megan Farokhmanesh is here with us, as I mentioned, senior writer from Wired. Welcome, Megan.
Hi, it's so good to be here with you.
Thanks, Megan. We're happy to have you here, and we're happy to be chatting about all the stuff you're looking at. First off, for those maybe not as familiar, how would you describe Wired?
So Wired is, obviously we're a magazine, but also we do a lot of online publication.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a lot of outlets that do like breaking news. They have newsrooms that are just on top of everything.
Mm-hmm.
We obviously do cover the important stuff, but I think for us, we like to kind of step back, look at the bigger issues, try to contextualize stuff, and try to give you interesting ideas or a little bit of flavor with your stories. So it's kind of more like
Mm-hmm.
the news will happen, and then, we'll be there to kind of explain it to you, to give you what's next and give you an idea of what to tell your friends, basically.
Mm-hmm. Well said. And you also cover everything culture. Of course, gear is a big thing, but security, there's science. There's a lot of meaty stuff in there. So, Megan, for you, though, specifically, what should us publicists know that you want to write about?
So I'm a video game reporter, which means a lot of things to a lot of different people.
Yes.
But what I'll say is the way that I approach video game coverage, and I've been doing this for, more than a decade.
Yes.
I always think of it as not covering exactly the products themselves, but rather the industry around it. So I'm interested in the people making games, the cultures that spring up because of it, or just interesting stories that tell us a little bit about like what games can tell us about ourselves. So I like to center my stories on people. And I do a lot of labor reporting because there's a lot of interesting stuff happening within this very strange industry that intersects tech and entertainment.
Yeah. And culture, to your point.
Yeah, it's a huge cultural impact. It's funny because I think that there's still this misunderstanding that video games are for people living in their basement or they're for little kids or whatever. But it's kind of a wild thing where video games have such a huge impact on our general culture. You can think about the fact that we have like a Mario movie coming out with Chris Pratt. We have a huge HBO show that just went on, The Last of Us. Video games have been around for a long time, and we've especially seen in the pandemic how much people relied on them. So the thing is, video games are not a basement dwelling activity anymore. Video games are for everyone. Everyone plays them.
Not basement dwelling anymore. I mean, there's a story you even recently did that talks about how Kmart is something you could look at a virtual reality Kmart. Hey.
Oh, yeah. I love that story. So basically, for folks who have ever messed around with the virtual world, which we're seeing a lot of now with lots of metaverse talk. We'll get to that later, I'm sure. So it's this community of people who began with a couple people who used to work at Kmart's, who went on to build a virtual recreation of Kmart. And I mean, they're thorough. Like they've taken photos, they've tried to recreate a very specific era of Kmart in the 90s, because for them, and this is a direct quote, they thought that that was really the peak of Kmart. And it's kind of a place for them to role play, to pretend like they're working, to interact with people. And some people use it as just a fun way of like feeling nostalgic about their old jobs, which honestly I respect, because like I hate all my retail jobs that I grew up doing. Like you could not pay me to go back in a virtual world or otherwise. But they use it to just learn how to role play like being at work and learning how to do jobs. It's actually strangely wholesome.
Wow. I would, the application of that and like why you would want to go back to, fascinating. So exactly. It's about culture and the weird things humans are interested in. You just have to acknowledge that. My God. Okay, Megan, how is your inbox?
Oh, gosh. Well, I think as a journalist, it's really important to keep yourself organized and really put together, which is why mine is a disaster, because I'm terrible at that. My inbox For the start of the year, I wanted to get to inbox zero.
Everyone's is, by the way, just so you know.
I know. Oh my gosh. I remember talking to a journalist who was saying she has like 80,000 or something. It was insane.
Oh, I've heard worse on here, just so you know.
I believe
up to the 500,000. Yeah.
That stresses me out so bad. I got to say, I'm not quite there. I haven't actually accomplished my goal of inbox zero. I would say we're sitting around like a cool 100 right now, which for me is pretty good.
That's pretty good. And then I know you try to get to zero, but do you delete or do you just search later for perhaps stories that come up? How do you suss out what you refer back to, if ever?
Yes and no. The problem is that I will see an email that I think is important, and I'll either, depending on who it's from or what the subject line is, I'll be like, oh, I need to read this right now. Mm-hmm. I'll read it and then be like, cool, okay, I'm going to bookmark this for later. So then I mark it as unread, so it goes back into the mess that is my inbox. Mm-hmm. Or I don't read it because I want to remind myself that, hey, that's something important I need to check on, which is also not the best way to handle it. So I'm kind of just all over the place. Honestly, I do a lot more with physical notes to remind myself. Like my desk is always covered in a million stickies.
Oh, sticky. Oh, I haven't heard sticky notes so much. Okay. What did the stickies say?
Oh, they're completely deranged. It's like some of them will just have like a date or like a code for something. Some of them actually have like story ideas, but it'll just be something random where it's like Pokemon resellers and that's it. And like sometimes I'm like, I remember exactly what I was talking about. Or sometimes I'm like, what was she thinking about? But I do try to, the physical act of writing something down. Sometimes I pick up the sticky note or I put it in front of me or I just like try to do something. The physical act of it helps me remember way more than anything that is digitally in my inbox.
Okay. More analog happening here. But the sticky note method, that's a new one. That's a new one on here.
Yeah. My desk kind of looks like, those like the joke about the crime boards where cops who work off duty are trying to connect a thing. It's kind of like that, but like without murder,
Yeah. Without a murder, except a story you're going to kill.
Yeah.
Maybe. Okay. For subject lines, do you pay attention to them or that doesn't so much matter?
I am a skimmer. So because sometimes I can look at who sent it to me because I do get a lot of spam. And I'll be like, this is not clear for me. It'll be like, here's a politician who wants my money. And I'm like, I don't know how you got in here, but you don't belong here. But I do try to look at them. And sometimes, they're varying degrees of helpfulness, I'd say, or you can tell they're not really for you. Like they're not aimed at you, but someone who just kind of like
sprayed and play. Yep.
Yeah. It's like, it's frustrating because I'm like, my inbox is not the front row of SeaWorld. Like you can't just splash me with anything you have.
The front row of SeaWorld. Yeah. So you're a skimmer. So it's not so much perhaps the subject line. Is there anything that absolutely stands out though in a subject line where you're like, oh, I'm going to open that up?
Yeah. It's kind of like, like you think about the like inverted pyramid for journalists where you want to get like top most important facts. It's kind of like that, where if you in the subject line manage to tell me like what the thing is, where it's happening, it depends on what's going on, right? Because with my inbox, especially covering games, I get a lot of different things. So sometimes I'm getting invites to events to see a game hands-on. And I generally like to go to those because I like having the chance to speak with people. So maybe it'll say something like that. Maybe you're offering me an interview. So that's in the subject line. Maybe you're just keeping me informed about something. And like, I actually do appreciate just like news blast being like, hey, this game's coming out on this date, which is helpful just for me to like kind of bookmark.
Okay. She likes invites to live events, watching the stuff.
Oh, I love invites.
Oh, okay. Well, one of our questions is relationship building. How can people make relationships with you? So is it an invite to anything game related, or is it just even an invite of, hey, I have a lot of game clients. You want to go to coffee? I'm in Brooklyn.
So this depends, right? So it depends on what it is you're trying to pitch me on or who your client is. So if you are coming to me and you're like, I have somebody who wants to talk about Bitcoin or very often wants to talk about the metaverse, and I'll look at it and it's like a VC or someone who I don't think is actually going to be relevant for my audience or my stories, I don't want that. I'm not going to sit down and talk with you because I think it would just be disrespectful to both our time, because if I'm not going to use any of your stories, like you should go find somebody who will. So I generally do like to sit down with people who if I've worked with you before and I know you're, a good PR person or you have a good idea of my work, you haven't just found me randomly, like I'm very happy to sit down with you. And I do prefer to actually have a conversation with people because I really want to have that like face-to-face interface, even if now it's just kind of video to, video face.
Yeah. Okay. This is good to know.
Today's interview will continue after this brief message brought to you by OnePitch. Are you curious to see the unique ways OnePitch helps PR professionals and marketers pitch journalists? Head to onepitch.co to learn about our new OnePitch score and see how easy it is to find the right journalist to pitch your news to. Sign up for your free account today. Now, back to today's episode.
And then what do you feel about exclusives or embargoes?
Oh my gosh, I love them. If you show up with those, I just already am just so ready to see what you have to offer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, exclusives. Listen, every journalist loves an exclusive. They're not always for us. They're not always a fit for, whatever reason it is. But when you have someone who offers you a good one, that's the best. Honestly, because being a journalist is hard. You're doing so much work on your own. So when somebody's like, I have brought you a tasty treat, it's like, oh, fantastic.
Yes.
I haven't eaten lunch yet. I'd love to eat this cupcake.
Thank you. Thanks for telling me. Yes. Perfect.
It's similar with embargoes too, where, the most important resource I have is time. And so if you come to me with something that is really important and you're like, hey, here's an embargo, if you could give it to me even 2 days ahead of time, you are saving my life, because it gives me the time to sit down, to think about it, to write something that I think will be, actually good for readers, that I think is interesting. And also for the chance, gives me the chance to ask questions and try to give more information in the process that I think is helpful for people who want to come to Wired and read about video games.
Yes. Okay. So at least 2 days for embargoes, at least. Emphasize at least. Okay. We covered a relationship building with you, Megan. I do have this little rapid fire question set. Are you ready for this?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I talk so fast and blow through everything so fast. I'm like,
it's great. No, it's great. This is good. This is so good. Okay.
Rapid fire. Let's go.
Yes. Video or phone interview?
Video interview.
Bullet points or paragraphs?
This is a funny question just because I used to work at Axios. I'm breaking rapid fire, but I used to work at Axios and we wrote in bullet points. If you are sending me quick information, bullet points, but if you actually are sending me something that requires a little bit more explanation, paragraphs, I keep being no, I want both depending on the situation. So I like to be fickle.
Hey, that's okay. Short or long pitches?
Short.
How short?
I would say I don't need a lot of fluff. I don't need you to fluff my ego. I need you to tell me what it is that makes the story interesting or what it is about the subject. Pretty much in any pitch, I just want to know, if this person were not your client, is this a story you'd want to read? Because if you bring me something that you don't think is interesting and you don't really care about, why would my readers?
Why would? Yeah.
Yeah. I really think it's important to just respect everyone's time involved.
What a great lens. If it wasn't your client, would you want to read it? Yes or no?
Yeah. I like to respect everyone's time.
Yes. Okay. Images attached or Dropbox or a zip file?
Images attached. I do not like to go to a second location online if I can avoid it.
Same. And then you got to punt. Then you have to do this whole thing. Oh, it's a whole thing. Okay. Yes. Agreed with that. Pitches in the morning or in the evening, or no preference?
In the morning. I really like it. First hour of my day, I like to sit down with my coffee and I go through my inbox and I do the thing where I am reading emails and then not deleting them or, unreading them. But I like to at least kind of have a grasp on what my day might look like and what things I need to prioritize.
Email or Twitter DM?
Here's the thing. I like a Twitter DM if you are a developer source.
Okay.
That kind of thing. Because for me, I realize that as long as you're doing it in a safe way, I want you to reach out to me in a way that feels comfortable for you. And I know the email can feel a bit weird. And it's also if you are emailing me with sensitive documents, I want you to go to a specific email, which is my Proton email.
Yes.
Whereas if you have a PR pitch for me, do not ever pitch it to me in my DMs, because that is a sacred ground for other people who have a problem or something they really need to talk about with me.
Okay. Yep. Very clear. Next one. One follow-up or multiple?
I like a healthy 3.
A healthy 3. That is healthy.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's I will often either see a pitch and be busy, or perhaps read it and then do that thing where my brain gets distracted. I didn't write down a sticky note. So it's I like the second one because it gives me a chance to be okay, here's something I really need to look at. If you still haven't heard from me and it's something that you actually think is a good pitch for me and I'd be interested in, that third one is when I'm okay, this person is reaching out again. I'm finally going to really take a look at it.
Okay. Direct or creative subject lines?
Oh my gosh, direct. Do not ever send me creative subject lines. Some of them I will get them and I'm what does that mean? I appreciate the urge to be creative. And I think it's really great when people can use email, I guess, as a creative outlet for other people. You don't need to do it with me. I just like when you tell me right away what I need to know.
Okay. This is a polarizing, it has been so far a polarizing question for people. So interesting so far. All right. Press release or media kit?
Press release.
Press release. Okay. Attached, I'm assuming.
Attached, please attached. Yeah.
Attached. All attached.
Yeah. I like to have all the information kind of like right there, a media kit. Because why would we like to do our own art? So we have an art team that, prefers to gather images themselves or create stuff. We try not to use just like screenshots and stuff as much.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's like a media kit is it's like you handed me a box full of stuff and I don't want to have to take the time to go through the entire box. I just want the list on top of the box.
Yep. Got it. Is there anything, Megan, as we're getting close to wrapping up here, that you're looking for pitch-wise, particularly like right now in time?
I am very interested in telling stories that center on people, right? And I know I said that before, but what I mean is whether you have someone who has a really unique, interesting story or someone who's working on something that is meaningful in some way or has an impact, or if you have a story where even if it's not directly about a person, it's like, hey, here's a policy that is going into effect, something like that, that impacts the employees.
Yes.
So a good example of this that, might have sounded kind of boring is I had a company who they were instituting a menstrual leave policy for their employees. And that sounds like very,
wah, wah.
Yeah, it sounds like kind of in the weeds. But the thing is, like, that was something that, think about how often that's done.
All the time. Yep.
Yeah, it's like, to acknowledge, and it was good too, because their language wasn't just for women, it was like people who have periods. So to me, it's demonstrating you care about your employees, you're being welcoming, you're being inclusive.
Mm-hmm.
And also this is a policy that, like, not unsurprisingly, was a little bit controversial for, people who don't have periods.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it demonstrates a real understanding of the well-being of their employees that I really like to see.
And that was a piece you wanted to cover.
Yeah, I did cover it, and I,
yes,
really was happy with how it came out.
I didn't see this on your list of all the articles. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Oh gosh, it was when I was working for Axios, so it's likely part of a.
Oh, I was going to say, okay. I was like, wait a second. Okay. Okay. Got it. But what a great example, and human focused and human first. So I hope everyone takes that away. Megan, last thing for you here. Is there anything you want to promote, are working on, want to discuss, show up to your fan group, anything like that?
Wait, before we wrap up, can
Yes.
I talk about some of my subject lines and stuff that I get in my inbox?
Yes. Okay, so let's include that. So let me start with this. Megan, are there subject lines that are atrocious to you?
Okay, so I want to actually have 3, for example, that I think kind of.
Oh, you have 3? Great. Live ones. Great. I
have one that's a good one that I think is a bad one, and then one that is like, why did you send this to me? Okay, so we'll start with the good one.
Oh, great.
So the first one is Tunic by Finji gets Arabic added to its localizations. So that is good because it tells me what the game is,
Yep,
who made it, and what's going on. So the fact that it's Arabic getting added to localizations is something I actually care deeply about because, funny story, a lot of games do Arabic localizations horribly. This is something that I'm interested in and have, put out calls to talk to people. And, it's kind of like a pet project of mine to track it. And, I maybe have something bigger in the works. So I like that because, again, it's everything I need to know. And I can look at that and immediately was like, I'm going to respond to this person because I want to know what's up.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that one.
That's an excellent one. Great. Straightforward.
This one is one of the more, I guess, creative ones. Sorry to this person. It's no offense to your writing, but...
No, we're not going to name the person. Go ahead.
We're not going to name the person, but it is Voltaire the vegan vampire earns his green fang February 27th. I don't know what that means. I don't know what kind of game this is. I don't know who Voltaire is. I don't care. I assume the game is coming out on February 27th.
Uh-huh.
But other than that, it's like, I don't... that sounds like a silly kind of thing to me. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I get a lot of email things that kind of just feel like a word salad. Another one.
Okay, is this a bad one?
It's a bad one. I'll redact the name of this one.
Yes.
This is a bonus bad one. I'll redact the name of the game because it's under embargo.
Okay.
But co-op eco-conscious floating island survival sim announcement trailer embargo. That to me is like someone handed an AI a bunch of video game words and was like, okay, we need you to write the email. And that's what it came out with. That's the thing where my eyes will just glaze right over it. I don't understand what it's saying to me.
Yeah. Oh, man. Thank you for those live examples. We love those.
I have one more for you that's my favorite because this one has nothing to do with anything I cover. It's clearly like someone who just hit every journalist they could.
Play and play. Yeah, go ahead. Here we go.
So the line is, 1/3 of adults age 45 and older feel lonely. Surprised.
That's the subject line?
That's the subject line, which okay.
Oh.
If you've ever spoken to your parents, this is not surprising information. You should call your mother more. But also it's clearly not, it has nothing to do with me. And I get a lot of that kind of weird email stuff where I feel like I must be put on a list. It's very annoying.
For fun, did you just open it just to see, like, does it have to do with gaming, like, at all?
I opened it, read the first line, was like, nope. So I couldn't tell you what the rest of the email said. I opened it because I was like, why is this here? And then immediately deleted it. I also, if I could talk,
yes,
I'm a chatty person.
Keep going, Megan.
Okay, so I also want to let's talk about some body issues where if you send me an email, and let's say I open it, let's say it's a really good subject line. If in the actual body of the email you were saying something deranged to me, I am not going to respond to you. So I have a really good example of this.
Oh, yes.
I have a great example. So I had someone reach out, he did the thing where he followed up, so finally I opened it. And it was for a product of some kind. So in the actual body of the email, he goes, can I send you the product to get in your hot little hands? I don't know. No, thank you. That's an instant, no, I'm going to pass.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's a little gross and creepy and I'm not interested.
Yeah, no.
And it's kind of just, I feel that way about like a lot of like body emails where I think, I know PR people keep tabs on us. That's totally understandable. I want you to know who I am. I want you to know my work. However, if you are overly familiar, like if we've never spoken in person and you pop in my inbox and you're like, haha, that one tweet. So anyway, here's a pitch. Like, I know you're watching me, but I don't want to know you're watching me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And so just to be clear, you're talking about what's in the body of the pitch, not references, and or to your body. Because I was like, oh, hot hand. Oh, yeah, that is.
I will say both.
Both. Yeah, I was just going to say it's both. All of the above. Okay.
Yeah. Don't talk about anything related to my body and certainly don't put anything weird in the body of your email. That's just a good rule of thumb, I think.
That's just a good rule. I agree. Well, Megan, on our final note here, is there anything you want to promote, mention, hype? Should we follow you on Twitter, etc.? Obviously, but what else?
Oh my gosh. Well, first, I'd love if you followed me on Twitter. My name is at Megan_Nicolette, which is unfortunate because I've been told that an underscore in your name is terrible branding, but I've had it for such a long time. And I don't want people to go through the gauntlet of trying to get my name correctly. It's already bad enough. I think it's annoying as well. So yeah, please follow me on Twitter. I will always post my stories there. Sometimes I post pictures of my cat, if that's something you're into. And sometimes I just like to go on little rants. Honestly, that's the biggest thing. I have a lot of projects I'm excited about, but I can't tell you about. They're just they're still secret. Yeah.
Well, we'll have to be watching, but not watching too hard where you know you're being watched. Yeah. As you mentioned.
Yes, Twitter, exactly.
Exactly. Oh, Megan, thank you for being here today. Thanks for telling us about your coffee, your stickies, your gaming, your everything. We'll be watching. We'll be watching for your fun projects coming out.
Thanks so much. This was so fun.
Thanks, Megan. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Coffee with a Journalist featuring Megan Farokhmanesh from Wired. For more exclusive insights about the journalists on this podcast, subscribe to our weekly podcast newsletter at onepitch.co/podcast. We'll see you next week with even more insights about the journalists you want to learn more about. Until then, start great stories.